to left field, and that stays fair. That is gone. 30, 20, 15, 10, touchdown, 49. Mays waiting. He's got it because for the pass. And you can tell it goodbye into the upper deck.
I first became interested in sports when I was about 4 years old. And I mean interested in it because I've never through my career, through my life, I would never watch anything, even if I don't know who the two teams are. I pick a favorite, and USC was all I could live for. I would go around the neighborhood. It was during the Depression. We didn't even have a radio. So I found out that they used to deliver the mail in the area where they would put it through a slot in your doorway. And so I went around one day and found out that people were listening to the USC game. So I would go over to stand outside their house and lift up the mail sign and listen through there and listen to the USC game.
Mays waiting. He's got it because for the pass.
The first thing I remember was a broadcast of the Dempsey-Tooney fight. And I was watching with my dad. And I picked a favorite. That's the way it always did. I picked Dempsey, and my dad was for Tooney. Well, Tooney won it. And so my mother called us for dinner after the broadcast was over, and I didn't go in there, and she came back and I was crying, and she said, "Why are you crying?" And you think your parents can do anything. So I thought my dad had told Tooney to win. And so I was crying because he told Tooney to win and Dempsey didn't win. But that was my first memory of sports.
When I was a kid growing up in the East Bay, my dad always had the radio on. He liked to work with his hands. He was always outside when he had time off, working in his little workshop. And he had the Giants game on. The Giants used to play a lot of day games. And so Lon and Russ Hodges did those games. So from the time I was 7 or 8 years old, I was hearing Giants baseball on the radio. And then at about 8 or 9 years old, became a huge fan of the Giants and was hanging on every word whenever I could listen to a ball game. So Lon Simmons and Russ Hodges really taught me the game of baseball, as well as all about the Giants and the great storied history of the Giants. And mainly they described the exploits of Willie Mays, maybe the greatest player who ever played the game.
He taught me to take the job seriously, but not to take yourself too seriously. He always had a great even-keeled approach.
You understand that when you walk into the booth, first and foremost, you're going to do the best job you can. But maybe to him, equally as important is that you were going to have a good time.
And I always said if I was going to be a broadcaster, I would like to be like him, because he had humor, he had insights. It was just fun to listen to.
When Lon Simmons got excited, I got excited. The whole world got excited. Because he was so even, and he always gave you the impression he had seen it all and called it all. But when he really ratcheted up and gave you that level of excitement, you got goosebumps.
Hit deep to left. Way back. Way back. Way back. Way back. A grand slam. Mike Ivey's grand slam.
But with Lon, it's just the question of just how good he is at it and the passion he has for the game. That really comes through on the broadcast.
Stan Williams takes the stretch for the pitch to Mays. A long high drive hit to left field. That one's going way back. Snyder back near the wall. Tell it goodbye. Willie Mays with number 42 drives in 3 runs here. The Giants lead it 4-1. A high towering shot over the 370-foot mark.
We used to go to the games all the time. I was never that impressed with him. But when I walk with him at the ballpark and people would come up or say things to him, I'd get really proud. He taught me how to love baseball. And so when we get to go to the games, it used to be so much fun. I grew up watching Willie Mays play, Willie McCovey, Orlando Cepeda, Juan Marichal, Jimmy Davenport, great ball players, and it was an easy introduction to baseball. But listening to my dad in my day growing up, Everybody had a transistor radio. Every store had the ball game on. So it was really a part of my life growing up.
Well, Lon was always a friendly guy to the players, and so for some reason he took to me and Mays. You know, Lon had the best sense of humor of anybody I had ever met. He was so quick with his comebacks, his answers to a question, and I'd never met anybody that was that quick before.
I used to read the letters where the people hated me. I thought those were the best letters in the world. And I got some great ones. One was I got a letter that said, you're just like the cotton in an aspirin bottle. You don't know what it's there for, but you know it just aggravates the hell out of you.
Bases loaded, 2 men down, 6-5. The Giants lead, top of the ninth. The windup and the pitch. Line drive, base hit into left center field. That's going to go clear to the wall. 2-run score. Zepeda's around third. He's coming in to score, and Keane has himself a double. And the throw gets by Roseboro, and Keane goes to third base.
You go through the years, and you're going to learn something. And the thing that you have to learn is how to please the listeners, because they can't see. They don't know anything except what you tell them. And a lot of people that wrote me letters where they were complaining, and I read their letter on the air, they wrote me back and said, we're sorry, but yours was the only voice, the only connection we had to the game.
Next pitch to Zepeda. There's one. You can tell that goodbye. That's way out of here. Way back into the seats in left field as Zepeda gets his second home run.
I got a letter from a fan one time when I was doing Fresno State sports. And I'd had an automobile accident going to the stadium, and I was sort of out of it. Well, I got a phrase in my mind about, I don't know whether it was rolling out or someplace, but it was, and I started using it. I used it in the first quarter, and I started using it, didn't realize I was using it, but I would use it to describe almost every play. And I got a letter from this fellow, and he said, you're too good of an announcer to just use one phrase and continue to use it. So that taught me a lesson right there long ago when I was in broadcasting college sports, that you can't do that. And so for a while, I used to write that phrase down and put it in front of me so that I wouldn't use it.
Swing and a drive to deep right. Way back, way back, way back. Tell it goodbye. 4-0 A's, and Dave Parker lost one into the right field seat.
There's always got to be a winner and a loser, and I think that people get attached so much to their team or a team winning that they can't give up, and losses are more crushing to people in the U.S. I think than any place else. They just thrive on winning, and they're heroes. They're individuals they root for, and that's what I do. And it was like Eckersley with the A's. I was rooting for him so hard that I was afraid to have him come in because I didn't want him to fail. And yet I wanted him to come in because he was so good. I thought he was going to win all the time anyway.
4-1, the A's lead, top of the ninth. The one-strike pitch, swung on, fly ball, shallow center, Gallego, he has it! The A's have won it, they've swept.
Obviously, from a Giants standpoint, he came here with the team. He was one of their first announcers. So I think that is always going to be a very strong bond between Lon and Giants fans. And then he comes over and does the A's, and they win the World Series in 1989, and Lon is one of their announcers. And of course, the 49ers were terrific when Lon was doing them, but I mean, to me, it's a lot more than that with Lon Simmons. The thing that I think makes him so great is he never takes himself serious. He didn't take himself serious on the air. And when you sit down and talk to him now, he doesn't take himself serious. And quite frankly, there's a lot of sportscasters who do take themselves a little serious, but Lon was not one of them. He laughed, he made fun of himself, and I think when you can do that and still be a Hall of Famer, I think that's very endearing to people, and it's one of the many reasons why people love Lon Simmons.
Swing and a high, deep drive to left field, and that stays fair. That is gone, and you can tell it goodbye into the upper deck. The upper deck down the left field line as Canseco gets the home run to make it 3-0. A towering shot into the last deck in this stadium.
If you ask Lon Simmons about the Hall of Fame in broadcasting, he'll say he doesn't belong there. But I'm glad people pushed. I'm glad people voted him in. Because, you know, simply, whenever Rickey Henderson had the all-time stolen base record, it was Lon's half inning. Rickey was at second. He turned to Bill King, who is his longtime partner, and said, Bill, you're in the Hall of Fame in basketball and football. Here's your chance for baseball. He turned the microphone over to Bill King to announce the all-time stolen base record, which was Rickey Henderson against the Yankees stealing third base. And that was Bill's call, but it was Lon's inning. And that's just kind of the way he was. And anytime people wrote letters to him, they might write 100 letters, 99 positive. He would pull one negative and actually read it on the air, almost saying, I'm not that good. So he's a brilliant broadcaster, and I think if anybody in the Ford Frick Award, as far as Broadcasters Hall of Fame, if anybody deserves to be there, it's Lon Simmons, just because he is such a great person, but also one of the most respected and greatest broadcasters I've ever been around.
Fly ball to left field, hit deep. Going back is Mitchell. Looking. You can tell it goodbye. Rickey Henderson, who 40 times in his career in the regular season has led off a game with a home run, has led off this one with a home run.
I think with Lon, there was something that was just real about listening to him. He was just totally himself. And I think that, first of all, the sense of humor, it was very dry. You had to kind of get some of the stuff he was talking about. But I think here in the Bay Area, people appreciated that. He's from down in the valley, so he had certainly ties to this area. He was kind of one of them. When you listened to Lon, you felt like he was one of ours. And I think the fact that he had this laid-back kind of style, nothing was forced about Lon. It was just very comfortable. Lon Simmons was a comfortable listen, and I think there was an authenticity to that. And then he knew the game. You know, he was a very good player. He was a pitcher before he blew out his arm. And so when you listen to Lon, you knew this was a guy that had great insight into the game.
The one-strike pitch. Swung on, bounce, off McGuire's glove. Phillips has it. Throws to Eckersley. He's drive. Another great play by Tony Phillips. And the A's have won the World Series in a sweep.
Sounds crazy. You date yourself, because I've listened to him on the radio in bed late at night. And to this day, I remember his voice was just so calming until somebody hit a home run. And then the call was, and you can tell it goodbye. And I'll never forget that till the day I die.
Well, you should pick out that you have one person listening to you, and you're going to tell that one person what's going on at the game. And so that he can say at the end of the inning that he knew exactly what happened in the game. So that's the way, actually, I didn't broadcast that I had a million people listening or I got 40 people listening. I used to broadcast to the point that I had one person listening, and I was trying to explain to that one person what was going on at the game.
It's picked up by Jim Marshall, who's running the wrong way. Marshall is running the wrong way, and he's running it into the end zone the wrong way, thinks he scored a touchdown. He has scored a safety. Marshall ran the wrong way to score a safety as his teammates were running alongside of him, trying to tell him that he was running the wrong way. Brody back to pass. He has time. He looks. He throws for Washington. Washington is there. He got it.
His legacy with the 49ers is deep and strong, and he will always be kind of San Francisco's own for guys like me who grew up being fans predominantly of the 49ers and the Giants. And he was the reason why.
Football all of a sudden comes at you in such a way that if a player is running 90 yards for a touchdown, you have a long time to talk about it. And so consequently, you get wrapped up into it, and the longer you talk, the more excited you get. But you have to bring what you're trying to bring in football broadcasts especially, you have to let the fans know where the ball is, what down it is, and when they run, how many yards they're making. You have to let the fans know all those things because they can't see anything.
Blockers in front of them, 50, the 40, the 30, 20, 15, 10, touchdown 49ers.
I don't really have as many Giants memories of Lon as I do 49ers. I mean, the Steve Young call that gets played to this day of Steve Young scrambling wildly and breaking tackle after that scoring is, and Steve Young talks about one of the greatest calls of all time because it's pure emotion.
Back to throw. In trouble. He's going to be sacked. No, gets away. He runs, gets away again, goes to the 40, gets away again, to the 35, cuts back at the 30, to the 20, the 15, the 10. He dives. Touchdown 49ers. Young is exhausted. He stumbled as he got to the 2. He could barely move. He dived into the end zone. And the 49ers have taken the lead with 158, a 49-yard touchdown run by Steve Young.
And I told Steve afterwards, I said, you and I both ran out of gas at the same time because I was hysterical broadcasting him getting away from so many tackles, and he had run himself right into the ground. And the great quarterbacks, they know that there's really only one pass that they have to work hard to complete, and that's the touchdown pass.
Back to throw Montana. Steps up, throws.
Montana was so great at going through his receivers and picking the right one, and that was a tremendous play.
But I just want to shift gears and get about something else, and so I have no regrets about leaving. I've had a great career, a wonderful time in the Bay Area, and done what I wanted to do for the past 40-some years.
Lon, players always say they're going to miss hanging out with the guys when they finish playing. What are you going to miss the most?
Hanging out with the gals. No, I miss being around this. You can't help but like it, and you can't help but miss it because the guys are like talking to some of them now. They've been friends. I've enjoyed watching them play. I've been worried about them when they played. I've been excited and upset. You get through all the emotions because you enjoy the people that you're with, that you've known, that you played with when you started out as a kid, then you grew up and went to school and you made some more friends, and all of a sudden you go on through life, and pretty soon you've got so many friends that you're concerned about, that you're interested in, that you spend a lot of your lifetime worrying about them rather than yourself.
My dad did not want to go into the Hall of Fame. He didn't feel like he deserved it. He wasn't national, and I guess that's what he figured. And he never self-promotes. He's just not a self-promoter, and I think it embarrassed him.
I tried to do as good as I could while I was broadcasting, and sometimes I came home from broadcasting and was so angry with myself because I'd forgotten to say something, or I had said something that I shouldn't have said. And I worried a lot when I was off the microphone that I never thought that I was a great announcer, and I never thought I deserved to be in the Hall of Fame of broadcasting with the Ford Frank Award. And if the previous system of choosing the announcer had still been going and I would have been named, I probably would have refused it. But mine was the first year that they had fans voting to get you in the process. And so I thought, well, if I was actually pleasing fans so much that they were willing to give that many votes to me, that I couldn't really well just right in their face say, no, I won't accept it.
People got to see him how I saw him all the time. being funny, making people laugh, and heartfelt too for his friends that had passed. And getting him to enjoy it, that he finally got to enjoy all the love and appreciation that fans had been telling him. He finally felt it. And that was probably the most impressive thing for me, that it humbled him. And he understood why people liked him.
The Giants were terrific. I mean, they had all these Hall of Famers. There was this great rivalry with the Dodgers. And Lon was right in the middle of all of that. And I think he became beloved then. And look, he hits the jackpot again with the 49ers with the great run that they had. And he hits the jackpot again with the A's with the great run that they had. So is it just a coincidence that wherever Lon went, the teams turned out to be great? Probably not.
Next pitch to Cepeda. There's one. You can tell that goodbye. That's way out of here. Way back into the seats in left field as Cepeda gets his second home run.
I think Lon is extremely genuine in the love for the teams that he broadcasts for, genuine in the love for just doing it, period. Being a broadcaster, being at the ballpark, explaining what the scene is, describing what a game feels like. I mean, all that stuff comes through when you listen to Lon do a game. And I think that's why he can cross over from the Giants to the A's. He can be a 49ers guy and be a Giants guy because it's also genuine. It doesn't sound fake. It sounds real. The enthusiasm is there. The love for what he's doing is there.
You know what, more than anything else, how lucky I was to go into the Hall of Fame with him the same year was something that I'll never forget either. I mean, the timing of that was incredible. So, you know, we have a special connection because of all of this.
Swing and a high, deep drive to left center field. That ball is hit way back, way back, way back. Tell it goodbye. Dave Henderson's second home run of the game. His fourth run batted in. And the A's lead it by a score of 8-3.
And that deep baritone and that dry wit. You know, Bill King and Hank Greenwald and John have their own place, but truly, there's no one like Lon Simmons. There never will be anyone like him again.
Just listening to his voice, I don't think there's ever been a better baseball voice. If you think of someone and you say, that guy sounds like baseball, that's Lon Simmons to me.
Because what he's seeing, he absolutely loves, whether it be football, whether it be baseball, whether it be whatever. And I think that is why he's a Hall of Famer. And I think all of us who've had a chance to work with him will say the same thing about him. He's a Hall of Famer.
It's a deep to center. Way back.